Welcome. This is part 12, the decree. And we're going to do something different now because you've done lots of clearing. You've done 11, prepared your space. We're trying to create a frequency of vibration so that you can experience some calm in your nervous system and start feeling the joy again and start feeling that aliveness in the inner body. So, part 12, the decree is on manifesting. So, we're going to do something fun. And actually, Eckhart reminded me of it. And then I did it last year. And then I found the piece of paper. I did it and then I put it away. And then I found out that it happened and it was so significant and it came true. Like it happened. And then Eckhart's example was he was when he was in England, so before he moved to Vancouver, he had taken a piece of paper and he drew a circle. Okay, so we're going to draw a circle. And he put some things that he wanted to manifest that he saw him manifesting. I think it was like, his book and, really significant things. And then he put it away and then he found it years later and then everything came true. Um, okay, so let's just kind of look at, what the decree addresses. So many patterns, and we see this because the 3D Earth is a very low vibration, predominantly fear, guilt, and shame, distortions. So partial truths and, you know, just it's so uncomfortable. And so many light workers, come and have sessions because they are highly conscious in service to source and they don't know why they're here because it is so much yuck in the 3D. And they feel like they've been tricked, that this wasn't a volunteer mission, it was a trick. So, you know, and they are very smart and they're very insightful, but we kind of use each other as mirrors so that we can kind of see what are the patterns, what needs to shift. And insight alone doesn't shift the patterns. So the repeated dynamics in relationships, money, health, behaviors often continue. And even when you understand them, like like you're smart, you know what is going on, but it's still repeating. And so the body then, when we look at the body, we look at, okay, well, what is interfering with the body? What is the body holding on to? And what is unresolved? So something is interfering, right? And then the decree kind of puts a spotlight on it, so that you can become conscious of it because we can't clear it unless you're conscious of it. Okay. And then the decree names it, and then we release it from the root cause, from the root level, right? Because it's no longer aligned. And we're allowing your system to recognize the shift. Like we're allowing your system to recognize the clarity rather than the repetition. So we're clearing, but it's like a spotlight that we're putting on it. So the decree focuses on like identifying and then releasing persistent patterns and influences that are no longer for your highest good. So they no longer serve you. So this may include like repeating relationships, right? That's very typical. It can be at work, it could be at home, it could be with extended family, it could be family of origin, but there's a repetition and nothing is shifting. There's also financial and work-related dynamics that are patterns that are repeating themselves. Again, repetition. And then there's also like long-standing like emotional or behavioral loops where it's like a constant default of either anger or sadness or um, you know, like 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 more than sadness, like it's difficult to live because it just feels so horrible, and then there's this, it's like all of these difficult things, they need more than awareness to shift through them, right? So something that's difficult needs awareness first, and then we kind of see, well, where is it working in your system? So each decree helps clear the interference. So 3D is all interference. So I could use like stronger words like entities. Many people do that. Galactics, entities. It just scares people more. And it's interference, right? But essentially, that's what it is. It's interference. And so you can clear the interference so you can finally rest. So you can finally feel good in your own body. Okay, so, and it names, and the kind of the bigger existential, kind of like the bigger picture, is it names 4D. So 4D kind of kicks up interference because as soon as you anchor in 5D consciousness, so source connected consciousness in 5D. So there's no hierarchy in 5D. There's no Anunnaki in 5D. There's no reptilians in 5D. There's no grays in 5D because 5D is heart-based consciousness. And they cannot go past 4D because they are not heart-based beings on Earth. So we're talking about on Earth, on Gaia. So on Gaia, which is 5D and above, in a body, they cannot interfere with source-based beings in 5D and above in a body. Okay. So they work on the material and dominate the material plane, which is 3D. Right. So that's why there's so much confusion, because we're looking for that thread. We're looking for the root cause. We're looking, where did this originate? In what time space did it originate? And the decree kind of illuminates that thread. The installation is not you, and it obscures your inner light. And so we're just removing it so that you can actually, your own energy as a source emanated being feels really good. So each decree helps clear the interference so you can rest and feel good in your body. Okay, so that's the overall goal. And then there's something, it's like there's the repeat in dynamics, relationships, money, health, behaviors that continue even, like it's just, we want to shift that. So identifying, releasing the persistent patterns, releasing the persistent influences, they're no longer serve you. So we're looking at the circling, they call it the looping as well, or the karma relooping. So we're looking at, okay, where's the relooping? Where did it go wrong? And that is actually a huge awakening, right? That is a big awakening. And they actually don't want you to have any awakenings. The archons, reptilians, grays only exist when you believe in their power. But as soon as you don't believe, and they kind of do things to kind of frighten you, and you stay neutral and you stay focused on your own inner body, your own inner compass, and you stay in that state of neutrality, so they can't hook anything that's neutral. They need you to be in fear. They need you to be in sadness. They need you to be in extreme, emotion, basically. But when you turn inward to your heart and you connect to your inner body, your own inner compass, your own source pillar, they lose their power. So darkness cannot survive observation. The moment you name it and see it clearly, it loses power. And the mind forgot the heart. So when we value data, algorithms, markets over empathy, that's 3D. When we value dominance over harmony, that's 3D. And 3D is the material plane. So, but the answer is not to have, to be in a physical body, like, we need a home, we need clothing, we need things. So it's not about not having any things, but it's not being hooked into the fear of scarcity. Okay, so we're going to manifest. But first, let's just do a tune in, a little journey to tune in. Because for 3D Earth, we have to be very clear about what our intention is. So we're going to tune into our hearts. So our intention right now is to tune into our hearts. So we're connecting to the inner pillar of source consciousness into the inner body. And then sit with just the intention. The intention is I'm just going to connect to source directly in the inner body. And then just trust in the stillness. And if your body needs to kind of move and stretch because maybe there's been some tension holding, just allow that to open. And then sit with the intention of connecting directly to source. So you don't need to do anything, but if you need to kind of move and open your body, then, go for it. And then just allow yourself to be here now. No expectation. Okay, and now say out loud, I am here for the veil between me and my higher self. Another word for higher self is soul. Source consciousness to dissolve so that I may feel, know, and experience guidance in its purest form, direct from source. And then say out loud, I am ready to integrate all dimensions of my being and allow the fullness of my gifts to flow through me. Yeah, your gifts. You have talents, you have gifts. So imagine if you weren't terrified, what would you create? And then how can I receive more? How can I receive more love? How can I receive more self-love? How can I receive more abundance? How can I receive more ease? How can I receive more grace? And then say out loud, I trust the wisdom of my soul, my higher self, and the guidance and abundance that flows through me. We open our hearts of unconditional love and compassion with a direct connection to source. Source and 3D money. Source works through our own inner compass of the inner body. So it's not out of the body, it's into the inner body. And we can choose to anchor in the world that we want to see. I reclaim my own ground. Really put your foot down. I reclaim my own ground. my own abundance. My body supports me. I am allowed to receive. Breathe. My body is home. Presence flows. Good. Okay. So now I want, and then now state again out loud, I only call in what meets me fully, and declare, I am ready now. And I move even while I'm feeling afraid. And that is where breakthroughs happen. That even through fear, shaking with fear, you know, the conscious mind is frightening you, sending you all these messages of everything you need to be afraid of, but you are still saying, I'm ready now. I'm ready. Okay, good. And so now let's gather our supplies. So you just need one blank piece of paper, white piece of paper, symbolic, and a pen. And you're going to draw a circle on the piece of paper, and then make sure that here you can see I kind of drew a bit more. Make sure that the circle actually closes. And then you're going to write the date and the time, your full name, and your date of birth in the inner circle, and then 3 things that you want to manifest. And then when you've finished, just pause, and then you can take your time to write those 3 things down. And they can be like things, experiences that you'd like to manifest, you know, and then how do you want it to feel? Like if it's a home, like you can say, well, I want it to be like 30,000 square feet, like a huge house, but it's like, how do you want it to feel? Do you want to feel cozy, or do you want to feel safe, or do you want to feel um like, how do you want what you're trying to manifest? How do you want it to feel in your body? So do you want to feel in your body as soon as you come home, like, oh, I'm home. I'm so grateful. I love where I live. Yeah. And then, you know, just the highlights, right? Don't write like a book, just the highlights. I know I write a lot. I actually am, when I write, I'm really succinct, but when I talk, I'm not so succinct. So you're gonna fold it 3 times like that, and then put it under your pillow, sleep on it for 3 nights, and then put it on your altar or tuck it away somewhere. Like I wrote it, and actually I've saved it in plastic, um, because I had it, and then I slept on it, and then I forgot about it, and then I found it a year later, and I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, I didn't even realize how significant it was until, you know, a year later. I was blown away. I was blown away at everything I wrote, and then it all happened. I was truly blown away. And you know, and then I remembered Eckhart saying that story, that he had done this. And then he had, you know, forgotten about it, because what I learned, you know, in sessions, you know, we can't keep repeating, you know, I want to find my divine counterpart, and then I want to find my divine counterpart, I want to find my true love every, you know, every time. And it's like, the it's fine, you can repeat all you want, okay, but your higher self, source consciousness, they wait until you let go, right? And I did. I actually wrote it I just had a flash to do it and I did it and then I let it go and I actually forgot about it. And then I found the piece of paper a year later and you can see I've actually put it in plastic because it was like well worn. It was like and I just keep it on my desk, as a reminder. And that's it. So that's the decree manifesting. Simple, but it's important to release it, right? Let it go so that source consciousness can step in. They can, because Earth is 3D, Earth is free will. We actually have to release it. We have to state our intention and then we have to release it to source, to consciousness. And then we have to let go so that we can receive. And then if you can't let go and you keep looping, saying the same thing, then it's time to do a decree. Find out, what, where's the thread of that re-looping? And that's okay because, I've done things, I've repeated things many times. We're not here to be perfect, but maybe this time it will click and you'll understand, oh, okay, I set the intention and then I let go. you know? Yeah. All right. Take care.